President Dongwoo Kim stood at the large window of Luna Station, watching Earth slowly turn below him. The blue planet looked so peaceful from here, but he knew that billions of people were watching and waiting. Today would change everything for humanity. "Sir, the alien ships are coming," said Admiral Hyun-Soo Park as he walked into the room. His uniform was perfect, and his face was serious. "Our sensors show 3 massive vessels approaching. They're bigger than anything we've ever built." Dongwoo nodded slowly. After 50 years of sending messages into space, aliens had finally answered. The Galactic Consortium had agreed to meet with Earth's leaders. This was humanity's chance to join the galaxy's greatest civilizations. "Are our people ready?" Dongwoo asked. "Yes, sir. Dr. Ji-Won Lee has been studying everything we know about these species. Security is tight. Everyone knows how important this is." Dr. Lee entered the room carrying a thick folder. She was small but confident, and she had spent years preparing for this moment. "Mr. President, let me tell you about our guests." She opened her folder and showed him pictures and data. The first group calls themselves the Veltar. They look like living crystals and are very old. Their leader, Overlord Kethmore, has ruled his people for 300 years. They control mining operations across dozens of star systems. Dongwoo studied the image. The Veltar looked beautiful but cold, like walking diamonds. The second group is the Hive Collective. They're insect-like beings who think as one mind. Queen Zithka speaks for all of them. They build incredible cities and ships, but they see other species as either useful or dangerous. The pictures showed creatures that looked like giant ants walking upright. Their eyes were black and emotionless. Finally, we have the ethereals. They're beings made of pure energy who live inside special containers. They're the smartest of all the consortium species, but they think very differently from us. Dongwoo closed the folder. "What do they want from us?" "That's what we need to find out, Doctor," Lee said. "They've been watching us for decades but never made contact. Something changed their minds." Admiral Park's radio crackled. "Sir, the alien ships are here." They all moved to the observation deck. Outside, space itself seemed to bend as 3 enormous ships appeared. Each vessel was the size of a small city. The human ships nearby looked like toys in comparison. The Veltar ship was made of what looked like pure crystal, reflecting the light from the sun in rainbow colors. The Hive ship was dark and covered in thousands of small holes like a giant honeycomb. The ethereal ship glowed with soft blue light and seemed to float without any visible engines. "They're beautiful," whispered Dr. Lee. "And terrifying," added Admiral Park. Dongwoo straightened his jacket. "Let's go meet our new neighbors." The docking bay had been cleaned and decorated with flowers from Earth. A red carpet led to a special platform where the human delegation would greet their guests. Security Chief Woo Jin Nam stood nearby with his team, trying to look friendly, but ready for anything. The first to arrive was Overlord Kethmore. He walked through a shimmering portal that appeared in the air. His body was made of clear crystal that sparkled with inner light. When he moved, tiny chimes seemed to ring in the air around him. His face was hard to read, but his eyes glowed with ancient intelligence. "Greetings, small ones," he said. His voice sounded like wind through crystal caves. "I am Kethmore of the Veltar. We have come to see if your species is worth our time." Dongwoo stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Welcome to Luna Station, Overlord Kethmore. I am President Kim of Earth. We are honored by your presence." Kethmore looked around the docking bay with what might have been amusement. "How quaint. Your technology is very primitive, but you have managed to reach your own moon. That is something, I suppose." Before Dongwoo could respond, another portal opened. Queen Zithka emerged with 6 other Hive members walking in perfect formation behind her. She was larger than the others, with golden markings on her dark shell. Her forearms moved constantly, and her antenna twitched as she examined everything around her. "Human creatures," she said in a buzzing voice that sounded like many people speaking together. "We taste your fear scent in the air. Good. Fear shows intelligence. I am Zithka, voice of the collective. We will judge if you are useful creatures or pest creatures." Welcome, Queen Zithka, Dongwu said, trying to stay calm. We hope to learn much from your wisdom. The air suddenly filled with soft music that seemed to come from everywhere at once. A floating sphere of blue light appeared, pulsing gently. When it spoke, the voice was like a gentle song. I am the speaker for the ethereals. We are curious about your kind. Your thoughts create interesting patterns. We will observe and consider. Dr. Lee stepped forward. Honored guests, we have prepared a welcome ceremony and a feast using foods from our world. We would be happy to share our culture with you. Kethmore made a sound like breaking glass. We do not eat physical matter as you do, small one. Your gesture is noted, but unnecessary. Queen Zithka clicked her mandibles. The collective has studied your nutritional offerings. They are adequate for primitive biology, but hold no interest for us. The ethereal sphere pulsed brighter. We appreciate the thought pattern behind the offer. It shows social cooperation instincts. Fascinating. Dongwu felt the first meeting was not going well, but he pressed on. Perhaps we could show you to the conference room? We have much to discuss. The conference room was the largest space on Luna Station. A circular table had been set up with chairs for the humans and special platforms for the aliens. The walls showed images of Earth's cities, forests, and oceans. As everyone took their places, Dongwu began his prepared speech. For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. Today, we know we are not. We come to you not as conquerors or beggars, but as a young species eager to learn and contribute to galactic civilization. He gestured to the images on the walls. Earth may be one small world, but it has produced great art, music, literature, and science. Our people have different colors, languages, and beliefs, but we have learned to work together. We have ended wars, cleaned our environment, and reached for the stars. Kethmore interrupted with a sound like wind through broken glass. Small human, your world is barely out of its violent infancy. We have watched you fight endless wars over resources, territory, and ideas. Your pollution nearly destroyed your own planet. What could you possibly offer the consortium? Queen Zithka's antenna twitched rapidly. The human creatures show some organization skills, but they are chaotic. They do not think as one mind. They waste energy on individual desires. The collective sees little value in such disorder. The ethereal sphere dimmed slightly. Your species shows interesting creative potential, but also dangerous unpredictability. You solve problems through violence more often than wisdom. This concerns us. Dr. Lee stood up. If I may, honored guests, humans have also shown great capacity for growth and change. We have made mistakes, but we have learned from them. Our diversity is not a weakness, it's a strength. Different perspectives help us find better solutions. Solutions? Kethmore laughed, a sound like crystal shattering. Child, we have been solving problems since before your son was born. The consortium has brought order to thousands of worlds and countless species. We do not need the chaos that follows humans wherever they go. Admiral Park remained calm, but his jaw was tight. With respect, sir, we have maintained peace on Earth for over 50 years. We have worked together to explore space and build this station. We are not as chaotic as you think. Queen Zithka made a clicking sound. 50 years? The collective has maintained perfect order for 50,000 years. Your peace is a brief moment that could end at any time. Unstable creatures cannot be trusted with galactic responsibilities. The room fell silent. Dongwu realized that this meeting was going much worse than anyone had hoped. The aliens were not impressed with humanity. They saw humans as primitive, violent, and unreliable. But he was not ready to give up. You are right, he said quietly. We are young. We are imperfect. We have made terrible mistakes. But we are also capable of incredible things when we work together. We have created beautiful art, saved endangered species, and reached across vast distances to touch the stars. We dream of a future where all beings can live in peace and prosperity. He stood up and walked to the window showing Earth. That blue world down there is everything to us. Every human who ever lived was born there. Every story, every song, every hope we have ever had comes from that small planet. We know we are small in the galaxy, but we want to be part of something greater. Overlord Kethmore studied the human president for a long moment. Your passion is interesting, but passion without power is meaningless. What can Earth offer the consortium that we cannot already provide for ourselves? We can offer a new perspective, Dongwu replied. Fresh ideas. Different ways of thinking about old problems. We can offer our friendship and loyalty to those who welcome us. The three alien leaders looked at each other in ways that humans could not fully understand. Crystalline light flickered between Kethmore's facets. Queen Zithka's antenna moved in complex patterns. The ethereal sphere pulsed in rhythm with some unheard music. Finally, Queen Zithka spoke. The collective will consider. The second day began with hope, but that hope would die before the sun set on Earth below. President Dongwu Kim woke early in his quarters on Luna Station. He had barely slept, thinking about the alien visitors and what they might demand from humanity. Through his small window, he could see their massive ships hanging in space like metal moons. Admiral Hyun-Soo Park met him in the corridor. Sir, the aliens have requested another meeting at noon. They say they have prepared their terms for Earth's membership in the consortium. Terms? Dongwu frowned. I thought this was a discussion, not a negotiation with preset conditions. That's what concerns me, Park replied. Dr. Lee has been analyzing their behavior patterns from yesterday. She wants to speak with you before the meeting. They found Dr. Ji-Won Lee in the science lab, surrounded by computer screens showing data from the alien ships. Her eyes were red from staying up all night, but she was alert and focused. Mr. President, I've been studying everything we recorded. Yesterday, she said. The way they spoke, their body language, even the energy patterns from their ships. I don't think they came here to offer us membership. I think they came to give us an ultimatum. What kind of ultimatum? Dongwu asked. The kind we're saying no isn't really an option, Dr. Lee said grimly. Every species that has ever joined the consortium has done so after their homeworld was surrounded by consortium fleets. They call it protection, but it looks more like occupation to me. Admiral Park studied the data on the screens. Their ships have been scanning our defenses continuously. They know exactly how many weapons we have, how many ships, even how many trained soldiers. That's not the behavior of friendly neighbors. Security Chief Wu Jin Nam entered the lab, his face grim. Sir, we've detected energy signatures near the alien ships that match nothing in our databases. Whatever weapons they have, they're beyond our understanding. Dongwu felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Are you saying they're planning to attack us? I'm saying they're prepared to attack us if we refuse their terms, Nam replied. The question is, what are they going to demand? At noon, the aliens returned to the conference room. This time their manner was different. Yesterday's polite coldness had been replaced by barely concealed impatience. They took their positions around the table without any greeting or ceremony. Overlord Kethmore spoke first, his crystalline voice cutting through the silence like broken glass. Humans, we have evaluated your species and your world. The consortium has decided to offer you membership, but membership comes with responsibilities. We're ready to hear your terms, Dongwu said carefully. Queen Zithka's antenna twitched rapidly. Terms? No, small human creature. These are requirements. Non-negotiable requirements. The ethereal sphere pulsed brightly. Your species shows potential, but that potential is dangerous without proper guidance. The consortium will provide that guidance. Kethmore gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed Earth surrounded by dozens of alien ships. First requirement, Earth will reduce its population by 80% within 5 years. The excess population will be relocated to consortium work colonies, where they will contribute to galactic civilization. Dongwu felt the blood drain from his face. 80%? That's over 6 billion people. You're talking about moving 6 billion human beings to labor camps? Not labor camps, Queen Zithka buzzed. Work colonies. Very different thing. The relocated human creatures will receive food, shelter, and purpose. Many species find this arrangement preferable to their previous chaotic existence. Dr. Lee stood up, her voice shaking with anger. You're talking about slavery. You want to enslave most of humanity. The ethereal sphere dimmed slightly. Such an emotional response. Slavery is an inaccurate term. The relocated beings will be cared for and given meaningful work. Many will find greater happiness than they knew on their overcrowded homeworld. Admiral Park's hands were clenched into fists. What's the second requirement? Kethmore waved his hand, and the display changed, to show Earth's military installations being dismantled. All human military forces will be disbanded. All weapons above personal defense level will be destroyed. The consortium will assume responsibility for Earth's protection. Protection from what? Dongwu demanded. From yourselves, primarily. Kethmore replied with what might have been amusement. Young species often destroy themselves without proper guidance. We have seen it countless times. The display changed again, showing human research facilities being taken over by alien supervisors. Queen Zithka spoke in her buzzing voice. Third requirement. All technological development will be supervised by consortium overseers. Dangerous research will be prohibited. Useful discoveries will be shared with the greater galactic community. You want to control our science? Dr. Lee asked. We want to prevent your science from creating weapons that could threaten galactic stability, the ethereal replied. Young species often develop dangerous technologies before they develop the wisdom to use them properly. Dongwu looked around the table at his advisors. Their faces showed the same horror and anger that he felt. These weren't membership terms, they were surrender conditions. And if we refuse these requirements? He asked quietly. The room fell silent. The three aliens exchanged looks that humans couldn't fully interpret, but the meaning was clear. Enough. Kethmore's voice became harder like diamond-cutting steel. Refusal would be unfortunate. The consortium has a responsibility to maintain galactic order. Chaotic species that refuse guidance often become threats to peaceful civilizations. Are you threatening us? Admiral Park asked, his voice steady. Despite his anger, Queen Zithka made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Threat? No, Admiral Creature. Statement of fact. Species that cannot accept their place in galactic order sometimes suffer unfortunate accidents. Solar flares that destroy technology. Asteroid impacts that devastate continents. Plagues that reduce populations to manageable levels. The ethereal sphere pulsed ominously. We prefer cooperation to correction, but we have tools for both approaches. Dongwu stood up slowly. I need time to consider these requirements and discuss them with Earth's government. Of course, Kethmore said smoothly. You have 48 hours to provide your answer. We will remain here to assist with any questions. Assist? Dr. Lee asked. Our ships will maintain position around your system to ensure the negotiations proceed without outside interference, Queen Zithka explained. Some species attempt to flee rather than accept membership. This always ends badly for them. As the aliens left through their shimmering portals, the humans sat in stunned silence. Finally, Admiral Park spoke. They're not offering membership. They're demanding surrender. 6 billion people, Dr. Lee whispered. They want to take 6 billion people as slaves. Security Chief Nam activated his communicator. All security teams, this is Priority Alpha. Assume defensive positions immediately. Wait, Dongwu said. We can't show hostility. Not yet. We need to buy time to think. Think about what? Park demanded. They've made their intentions clear. They want to destroy human civilization and turn us into a slave species. Maybe we can negotiate, Dongwu said. But even as he spoke the words, he knew they were hollow. That evening, Dongwu met with his daughter, Yuna Cho, Earth's chief diplomat, in his private quarters. She had arrived from Earth that afternoon, after receiving an emergency summons. Father, tell me this is some kind of misunderstanding, she said. Surely they don't really expect us to accept these terms. Dongwu poured himself a glass of water with shaking hands. I think they expect exactly that, and I think they've done this before to countless other species. But we can't agree to this. It would be the end of human civilization as we know it. And if we refuse, they might end human civilization entirely. Yuna walked to the window and stared out at the alien ships. There has to be another way, some compromise we can reach. I don't think they're interested in compromise, Dongwu replied. They see us as children who need to be controlled, not equals who deserve respect. A knock at the door interrupted them. Admiral Park entered with Security Chief Nam and Dr. Lee. Their faces were grim. Sir, we've been analyzing the alien fleet, Park said. They have enough firepower to destroy every major city on Earth within hours. Our defenses wouldn't last 10 minutes against them. What about evacuation? Yuna asked. Could we get people off Earth before? Where would they go? Dr. Lee interrupted. Mars has a few thousand colonists. The asteroid mining stations might hold a few hundred more. We couldn't evacuate even 1% of Earth's population. Nam activated a holographic display showing the alien ships. They've positioned themselves to cover all escape routes from Earth. Any ship trying to leave the system would be intercepted. Dongwu sat down heavily. So our choices are surrender or extinction? Maybe not, Park said quietly. We've been assuming that these are our only options because that's what they want us to think. But humans have a history of finding third options when the first two are unacceptable. What are you suggesting? Yuna asked. I'm suggesting that maybe it's time to stop thinking like diplomats and start thinking like survivors. Dr. Lee checked her datapad. The aliens have scheduled another meeting tomorrow morning. They'll expect our answer then. The news of President Kim's assassination reached Earth 18 hours later, and the reaction was immediate and terrible. Across every continent, humans watched in horror as the report spread. Their leader, a man who had dedicated his life to peace, had been murdered by the same aliens who claimed to want cooperation. Admiral Hyunsu Park had taken command of the human delegation on Luna Station. His first message to Earth was brief and clear. They killed our president, prepare for war. On Earth, General Hyejin Kang stood in the war room beneath Geneva, surrounded by screens showing global military positions. She was a small woman with steel in her eyes, and she had spent 30 years preparing for the day when humanity might have to fight for its survival. How long do we have? She asked her aide, Colonel Jae-sung Lim. The alien fleet is moving into position around Earth, he replied. Our satellites show 500 ships of various sizes. They'll be in optimal attack formation within 6 hours. General Kang activated the Global Defense Network. Military bases around the world received the same message. Code Black. This is not a drill. All units to defensive positions immediately. In space, Commander Tae-ho Jung watched from the bridge of the Earth defense ship Aegis as the alien armada approached. Each alien vessel was larger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls gleamed with unknown metals and they moved with impossible grace for such massive objects. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead alien ship, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant So-young Kwan. Put it through. Overlord Kethmore's crystalline form appeared on the main screen. His voice was cold and without emotion. Human vessels, you will stand down immediately. Any aggressive action will be met with overwhelming force. Commander Jung kept his voice steady. This is Commander Jung of the Earth Defense Force. You are entering our system without permission after assassinating our leader. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences. Kethmore made that glass-breaking sound that passed for laughter among his people. Consequences? Small human, you have 26 ships. We have 500. Your weapons are primitive chemical rockets. Ours can crack planets. There will be no consequences except your destruction. Then you'll have to destroy us, Jung replied. Because we're not backing down. The transmission ended, and Jung turned to his crew. All ships, maintain position. Do not fire unless fired upon, but be ready for anything. Lieutenant Kwan looked at him with worry in her eyes. Sir, they're right about the numbers. We can't win this fight. Maybe not, Jung said, but we can make them remember it. On the planet's surface, millions of people watched the sky with growing fear. The alien ships were visible even in daylight. hanging like dark stars against the blue sky. Children pointed at them with wonder, not understanding the danger. Their parents held them closer and whispered prayers. In his laboratory deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Shung Ho Bei worked frantically on humanity's most classified project. For 10 years, he and his team had been developing weapons that could match alien technology. Most people thought it was impossible, but Bei had never accepted impossible as an answer. "Professor, the government is asking for a status report," said his assistant, Dr. Young Siko. "They want to know if Project Fenrir is ready." Bei looked at the massive particle accelerator that filled the cavern around them. It was humanity's secret weapon, built in absolute secrecy using technology reverse-engineered from alien artifacts found in deep space decades ago. "It's ready," he said grimly. "But we'll only get one shot. If we miss, they'll locate this facility and destroy it." "Then we'd better not miss," Dr. O replied. Above them, the alien ultimatum was broadcast to every human on Earth. Queen Zithka's buzzing voice filled television screens and radio speakers across the planet. "Human creatures of Earth, your leader has been killed by extremists among your own kind. This tragic event shows why the consortium's guidance is necessary. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your military forces and the bombardment of your major cities. We do not wish to harm innocent civilians, but order must be maintained. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with the dignity that all consortium members receive. Refuse, and face the consequences of your defiance." The message ended, and Earth fell silent. In cities around the world, people looked up at the alien ships and wondered if they would see another sunrise. But humanity's response was not what the consortium expected. In New York, factory workers who had never held weapons began manufacturing ammunition. In London, retired soldiers came out of their homes and reported for duty. In Tokyo, students organized evacuation plans for the elderly and children. In São Paulo, engineers began building improvised defenses around critical infrastructure. The aliens had expected terror and quick surrender. Instead, they found a species that responded to threats by becoming more dangerous. General Kang received reports from around the world. Every major city was fortifying itself. Civilian volunteers were joining military units. Scientists were sharing weapons designs over encrypted networks. Farmers were hiding food supplies for extended sieges. "Ma'am, we're getting reports of human ships launching from hidden bases," Colonel Lim reported. "Vessels we didn't even know existed are coming out of the asteroid belt." "What ships?" Kang demanded. "Unknown class vessels with stealth technology. They've been out there for years, apparently. Someone's been preparing for this day for a long time." On Luna Station, Admiral Park received a coded message that made him smile for the first time since the president's death. The message was simple. "The dogs of war are unleashed. Give them hell." The alien deadline approached, and the consortium fleet moved into attack position. Their weapons powered up, casting ominous glows across the hulls of their ships. They expected humanity to surrender at the last moment, as so many other species had done. Instead, humanity's answer came in the form of action rather than words. At exactly 11 hours and 59 minutes after the ultimatum, every human military installation on Earth and in space opened fire simultaneously. Missile batteries launched thousands of rockets. Orbital defense platforms that the aliens didn't know existed suddenly activated and began firing particle beams. Hidden weapons installations emerged from mountains and ocean floors. The aliens were surprised by the coordination and scale of the response, but their confidence never wavered. Their shields absorbed the human weapons like rain hitting a roof. Their return fire was devastating. Single shots from alien vessels destroyed entire human ships in bursts of light. Commander Jung watched his fleet being torn apart around him. The Aegis shook as alien weapons overwhelmed her shields and tore holes in her hull. His crew fought bravely, but they were fighting a force beyond their understanding. "All ships, continue firing," he ordered over the radio. "Make them pay for every inch." Lieutenant Kwan's console exploded in sparks and she fell to the deck bleeding from her face. "Sir, we've lost primary weapons. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. "Switch to ramming speed," Young ordered. If we're going to die, let's take one of them with us. The Aegis accelerated toward the nearest alien ship, her engines pushed beyond their limits. Other human vessels followed suit. When their weapons failed, they became weapons themselves. The sight of human ships deliberately crashing into alien vessels surprised the consortium fleet. Most species surrendered when faced with impossible odds. These humans kept fighting even when fighting meant certain death. On Earth's surface, the bombardment began. Alien ships rained destruction on major cities, but they found that humanity had prepared better than expected. Underground bunkers protected civilians. Decoy installations drew fire away from real targets. Mobile defense units struck at alien landing forces and disappeared before retaliation could find them. In the ruins of Sydney, Captain Minseo Park led a squad of soldiers against Veltar troops who had landed to secure the city. The crystal beings were nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons, but humanity had learned to adapt quickly. Use the sonic charges, Park ordered. Their crystal structure resonates at specific frequencies. Hit them at the right pitch, and they shatter. Her soldiers activated experimental sonic weapons that Dr. Bay's team had developed. The high-pitched sounds that emerged could barely be heard by human ears, but they caused the Veltar to crack and fall apart like broken glass. Similar scenes played out across the planet. In Moscow, Hive troops found that humans had weaponized Earth's own insects against them, using pheromone bombs that drove the alien insects into confused rage. In Cairo, ethereal forces discovered that certain electromagnetic pulses could disrupt their energy forms, causing them intense pain. But for every small victory, humanity suffered greater losses. The alien weapons were too advanced, their numbers too great. Cities burned, ships died in space. Millions of humans were killed in the first day of fighting. In his command bunker, General Kang watched the reports come in. Humanity was losing, badly, just as everyone had expected. But they were losing slowly, making the aliens pay dearly for every victory. Ma'am, the Antarctic facility is requesting permission to fire, Colonel Lim reported. Kang hesitated. Project Fenrir was humanity's ultimate weapon, but it was also untested. The destruction of their command ship had shocked the consortium, but it also made them angry. For the first time in centuries, a primitive species had actually hurt them. Their response was swift and brutal. Alien forces began landing in major cities around Earth. Unlike their earlier surgical strikes, these were full-scale invasions meant to crush human resistance completely. They expected to find a broken species ready to surrender after losing so many ships in space. Instead, they found something they had never encountered before, a species that became more dangerous when cornered. In the ruins of London, Colonel Jae-sung Lim crouched behind the wreckage of a bus and watched Veltar troops march down what used to be Oxford Street. The crystal beings moved in perfect formation, their bodies reflecting the light from burning buildings. They looked invincible. "Remember what we learned in Sydney," he whispered into his radio. "Hit them with the sonic charges, then retreat through the underground. Make them chase us into the dark." His team activated their experimental weapons. The high-pitched sound that emerged was barely audible to human ears, but it made the Veltar stumble and crack. Several of the crystal beings shattered completely, their bodies falling apart like broken glass. The remaining aliens turned their weapons toward the humans, but Lim's team was already gone, vanishing into London's subway tunnels. The Veltar followed, not understanding that they were being led into a trap. In the underground, Captain So Young Kwan waited with 50 volunteers. Office workers, students, shopkeepers, and retirees who had never been soldiers but refused to surrender their city. They had spent days preparing these tunnels, turning every station into a fortress and every tunnel into a killing ground. "Wait for them to reach the platform," she whispered. "Then hit them from all sides." The Veltar emerged onto the subway platform, their crystalline forms glowing in the darkness. They were met by a storm of sonic weapons, improvised explosives, and something they had never faced before: the absolute fury of ordinary people defending their homes. Similar scenes played out in cities around the world. The aliens had expected quick victories against demoralized populations. Instead, they found that every street was a battlefield, every building a potential fortress, and every human a potential enemy. In Tokyo, Hive forces discovered that the humans had turned the city's own infrastructure against them. The subway system had been flooded with modified pheromones that drove the insectoid aliens into confused rage. Construction robots had been reprogrammed to attack anything that didn't match human biological signatures. Even the city's famous bullet trains had been converted into missile platforms. In New York, ethereal troops found that humans had weaponized the city's electrical grid. Every streetlight, every power cable, every electronic device had been modified to generate electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the energy beings' ability to maintain their forms. The aliens were learning a hard lesson. Humans were dangerously creative when they were desperate. General Haijin Kang monitored the battles from her command bunker beneath Geneva. The reports coming in were mixed. Humanity was losing ground in most places, but they were making the aliens pay a terrible price for every victory. "Ma'am, we're getting strange reports from our deep space monitors," reported Dr. Young-sik, who had been transferred from the Antarctic facility. "Ships are appearing at the edge of the solar system. Human ships, but designs we've never seen before." "What do you mean?" Kang asked. "They're using technology that's years ahead of anything we thought we had. Stealth systems, energy weapons, even some kind of faster-than-light drive. Someone's been building a secret fleet for decades." As if summoned by their conversation, a new voice appeared on the general communication network. It was calm, authoritative, and completely unexpected. "This is Admiral Chang Min-yu commanding the Deep Space Defense Fleet. Sorry we're late to the party, but we had to come a long way to get here." General Kang stared at her communication screen in amazement. "Admiral Yu, your ships aren't in any of our records. Where have you been?" "Places the consortium doesn't know about," Yu replied. "We've been preparing for this day for 20 years, ever since we found evidence that hostile aliens were watching our system. The government thought we were paranoid conspiracy theorists, so we went dark and built our own response. On the display screens, dozens of sleek human ships were engaging the alien fleet. These vessels were nothing like the boxy industrial designs that Earth normally used. They moved with grace and speed, their hulls gleaming with unknown technologies. Captain Yoon Ji-han, commanding one of the new human ships, watched as her weapons tore through alien shields that had seemed invincible just hours before. "Target their engine sections," she ordered. "We've learned from studying their wrecked ships. They have a critical vulnerability in their power distribution systems." Her ship, the Shadow of Earth, fired a stream of particles that had been specifically tuned to disrupt consortium technology. The alien vessel she targeted shuddered and began venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. "How is this possible?" came Overlord Kethmore's voice over the alien communication channels. "These humans have technology that matches our own." "More than matches it," Queen Zithka buzzed angrily. "They're using our own weaknesses against us. Someone has been studying us for a very long time." The truth was more complex than the aliens realized. For decades, human scientists had been secretly studying every piece of alien technology they could find. Crashed ships, discarded equipment, even wreckage from ancient battles. Everything had been collected and analyzed by teams of researchers who worked in complete secrecy. Dr. Shung Ho Bai had been part of that effort long before he built Project Fenrir. In hidden laboratories around the world, human scientists had reverse-engineered alien technology and then improved upon it. They had found ways to make consortium shields fail, weapon systems malfunction, and navigation computers lose track of their targets. The aliens had thought they were fighting primitive humans. They were actually fighting humans who had spent years learning their weaknesses. But the most important human advantage wasn't technology. It was psychology. The consortium had been conquerors for so long that they had forgotten how to fight, a species that refused to be conquered. In the rubble of Los Angeles, Sergeant Dongmin Choi led a squad of Marines against a Hive landing force. The insectoid aliens had taken over the city's downtown area and were building some kind of processing center for human prisoners. "Sir, "They've got civilians in those buildings," reported Corporal Mira Kim. "Looks like they're sorting them by age and health. The healthy ones are being loaded onto ships." "Slave labor," Choi said grimly. "Just like they planned all along. The aliens had made a critical mistake by taking prisoners. They thought it would demoralize human resistance. Instead, it gave every human fighter a personal reason to keep fighting." "All units, priority target is prisoner transport ships," Choi announced over the radio. "Whatever it takes, we don't let them take our people." The rescue operations that followed were desperate and often suicidal. Human soldiers threw themselves at alien positions with complete disregard for their own safety. Parents fought through alien lines to reach their children. Even injured civilians picked up weapons and joined the fight when they saw their neighbors being loaded into alien ships. The consortium forces found themselves facing an enemy that fought with an intensity they had never encountered. These humans didn't retreat when faced with superior firepower. They didn't surrender when surrounded. They didn't negotiate when offered terms. They just kept fighting. In space, the arrival of Admiral Yu's hidden fleet had changed the balance of the battle. The mysterious human ships were fewer in number than the alien fleet, but they were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons designed specifically to exploit consortium weaknesses. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Ethereal Command ship," reported Commander Tae-ho Jung, who had survived the destruction of his previous vessel and been given command of one of the new ships. "Put it through," Yu ordered. The ethereal speaker's voice carried none of its previous calm assurance. "Human fleet, we wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict. Surely we can reach an understanding that benefits both our species." "Admiral," Yu's response was cold and clear. "The only terms we're interested in are your complete withdrawal from our system. Take your ships and leave. Never come back." "That is unacceptable," the ethereal replied. "The consortium cannot allow such defiance to go unpunished. Other species would see weakness and rebellion would spread. Then I guess we'll have to teach the galaxy that some species can't be bullied into submission," Yu said. "All ships, resume firing." The battle continued, but something had fundamentally changed. The aliens were no longer fighting to conquer humanity. They were fighting to avoid a humiliating defeat that would undermine their authority throughout the galaxy. On Earth's surface, human resistance was growing stronger by the hour. The aliens controlled major cities, but they couldn't control the countryside. Rural areas became staging grounds for constant attacks on alien supply lines. Mountain regions turned into fortress complexes that alien forces couldn't dislodge. Most importantly, human scientists were learning and adapting fast. 6 months had passed since the consortium fleet first entered the Sol system expecting an easy conquest. Now, their once mighty armada was trapped in a grinding war of attrition against an enemy they had completely underestimated. Marshal In-ho, SEO, stood in the rebuilt command center on Luna Station, watching the tactical displays that showed the current state of the war. He had been promoted from colonel to marshal after General Kang was killed in a consortium bombing raid on Geneva. Now he commanded all human forces in what had become known as the War for Earth's Freedom. "Report," he said to his aide. "Captain Wu Bin Lee." "Sir, the aliens have lost 40% of their original fleet, but we've lost 60% of our surface cities and about 200 million civilians. The good news is that our new weapons are working better than expected." SEO nodded grimly. The human casualties were devastating, but they were far lower than anyone had expected when the war began. More importantly, humanity was winning. The key to their success had been adaptation. While the consortium had relied on their overwhelming technological advantage, humans had learned to innovate faster than their enemies could react. Dr. Shung Ho Bei entered the command center, looking exhausted but triumphant. "Marshal, I have the report you requested on our latest weapons developments." "Go ahead, Doctor." "We've successfully reverse-engineered their faster-than-light communication systems. This means we can coordinate attacks across the entire solar system in real time. We've also cracked their personal shield technology, which makes their ground troops much more vulnerable." But Bei's most important achievement was less visible. Working with captured alien computers, he had discovered the locations of other consortium fleets throughout the galaxy. More importantly, he had found the communication codes that would allow humans to contact the enslaved species on consortium worlds. "Sir, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore," he said quietly. "We're fighting for every species the consortium has ever oppressed, and many of them are ready to join us." As if to prove his point, the communication system activated with an incoming message from deep space. The face that appeared on the screen was definitely not human. It had blue skin, 4 eyes, and gill-like slits along its neck. "Human warriors," the creature said in broken English. "I am Commander Nalthek of the Aquarian Liberation Front. We received your broadcasts. We want to fight alongside you against the consortium oppressors." Similar messages had been arriving for weeks. The consortium's empire, built on fear and overwhelming force, was cracking as species after species realized that resistance was possible. Admiral Chang Min-Yu's voice came over the intercom from his flagship in the asteroid belt. "Marshal, we're detecting a massive consortium fleet approaching from the Vega system. Looks like they're bringing reinforcements." SEO studied the tactical display. The new fleet was even larger than the original invasion force, over 800 ships carrying enough firepower to destroy every planet in the solar system. "How long until they arrive?" he asked. 18 hours, Yu replied. "But we have a surprise ready for them." The surprise was the result of 6 months of desperate innovation. Human engineers had converted several large asteroids into mobile weapons platforms, essentially turning chunks of rock into battleships. More importantly, they had developed a new type of weapon that could destroy multiple enemy ships with a single shot. Captain Yunji Han commanded one of the asteroid fortresses. Her ship, if it could be called that, was a hollowed-out asteroid 15 kilometers wide, filled with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. "All asteroid platforms, this is Han," she announced over the tactical network. "Remember, we only get one shot at this. Make it count." The consortium reinforcement fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel, expecting to find the remnants of their original force mopping up human resistance. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by what appeared to be empty space. That illusion lasted exactly 30 seconds. Cloaked human ships suddenly appeared all around the alien fleet. Asteroid weapons platforms dropped their stealth fields and opened fire with weapons that had been designed specifically to kill consortium vessels. Most devastating of all, Project Fenrir Mark II activated from its new location on the moon's surface. The second-generation planet killer was 10 times more powerful than the original. Its beam didn't just destroy the alien command ship, it punched through 6 vessels in a line, destroying all of them in a single shot. The consortium admiral's voice crackled over the emergency channels. "Impossible! These primitives cannot have such weapons." "Sir, they're using our own technology against us," came a panicked response. "Our shields are useless. Our weapons can't lock onto their ships." "How many vessels do we have left?" the admiral demanded. "Less than half, sir. And their reinforcements are still arriving." The reinforcements were ships from the rebel species that had joined humanity's cause. Aquarian vessels that moved through space like fish through water. Crystal ships built by a species of living rocks who had been enslaved for mining work. Energy beings who had learned to inhabit mechanical bodies specifically to fight their consortium oppressors. The galaxy's first interspecies alliance had been born in the crucible of war, and it was winning. On Earth's surface, the tide of battle had turned completely. Consortium ground forces, cut off from orbital support and facing increasingly sophisticated human weapons, were being pushed out of the major cities they had occupied. Colonel Jae-sung Lim led the liberation of London, advancing through streets that had been battlegrounds for months. His forces were no longer the desperate defenders they had been at the start of the war. They were now experienced soldiers equipped with weapons that could match anything the aliens carried. "Sir, the Veltar are retreating toward their landing ships," reported Sergeant Dongmin Choi. "Should we pursue?" "Let them go," Lim replied. "Better to have them leave voluntarily than to fight them all the way to their ships." Similar scenes played out across the planet. Alien forces that had seemed invincible 6 months ago were now struggling to maintain their positions against human attacks. Many were beginning to retreat to their ships, hoping to escape before the situation became completely hopeless. But escape was becoming increasingly difficult. Admiral Yu's fleet controlled most of the space around Earth, and his ships were intercepting alien vessels trying to flee the system. Any ship attempting to leave without permission will be destroyed, Yu announced on all frequencies. Surrender now and you will be treated according to the rules of war. Some alien ships chose to surrender. Others tried to fight their way out and were destroyed. A few managed to escape into faster-than-light travel, but they carried news that would shake the consortium to its foundations. Humanity and its allies were not only winning the war, they were winning decisively. In the ruins of Sydney, President Yuna Cho, who had been elected to replace her murdered father, addressed the world from the steps of the rebuilt Parliament House. 6 months ago, the consortium came to our world offering membership in their galactic empire. The price of that membership was our freedom, our independence, and the enslavement of most of our people. She paused, looking directly into the cameras that were broadcasting her words across Earth and throughout the galaxy. Today I can announce that the last consortium forces have been driven from our solar system. Earth is free. But more than that, we have sparked a revolution that is spreading across the galaxy. The celebration that followed was heard on worlds light years away. Humans danced in the streets of rebuilt cities. Alien refugees who had found sanctuary on Earth joined the celebrations. Most importantly, enslaved species throughout the consortium's empire heard the message and began their own uprisings. Dr. Young-Sik Oh monitored the communications traffic from his rebuilt laboratory in Antarctica. Madam President, we're receiving reports of rebellions on over 50 consortium worlds. The empire is collapsing, but Cho knew that the war was not truly over. The consortium still controlled most of the galaxy, and they would eventually organize a response to the growing rebellion. Humanity needed to be ready. Marshal Seo, what's the status of our expansion program? She asked. We've established colonies on 12 star systems that were abandoned by the consortium, he replied. Each colony is heavily defended and equipped with our latest weapons technology. If they want to attack us again, they'll have to fight for every system. The expansion program was humanity's insurance policy. Instead of remaining trapped in the Sol system, human colonies were spreading across nearby space, each one a potential fortress that could resist another consortium invasion. More importantly, these colonies were not just human settlements. They welcomed refugees from oppressed species and served as bases for the growing rebellion against consortium rule. Dr. Bay had another surprise to report. Madam President, we've made contact with the consortium's ruling council directly. They want to negotiate. The idea of negotiating with the beings who had murdered her father and tried to enslave her species filled Cho with rage. But she was also a politician, and she understood the value of talking even with enemies. What do they want? She asked. A ceasefire. They're willing to recognize human independence and establish formal diplomatic relations. In exchange,